Hi, everyone. My name is Christopher Everett, and I'm representing the Southern Documentary Fund. Today, we're having a panel called Southern Resources for Documentary Filmmakers. The South is much more than delicious food, great weather, and Southern hospitality. It's become a hub for documentary filmmaking. In this roundtable discussion, we're going to talk with several organizations in the South that are supporting the documentary genre and why it's so important to cultivate and support talent in this region. Again, my name is Christopher Everett. I'm the program manager at the Southern Documentary Fund. A little bit about me. I'm also a documentary filmmaker. Been doing documentary filmmaking for about 10 years now in the South, currently based in Durham, North Carolina. And the Southern Documentary Fund is a great organization to work for. We're pretty much a nonprofit that cultivates documentary media made in or about the American South. We believe that media has the power to change lives, and we provide makers with resources to champion Southern storytelling. Today, I have with us Teresa Hollingsworth with South Arts, Rahi Hassan with the Undocumented Filmmakers Collective, and Nicholas Price with Real South. Teresa, you go first. Introduce yourself, give us a little bit about your background, and also tell us a little bit about South Arts.
Great. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be with you all today and to be joined by my sister and brother, esteemed panelists. So it's great to see everyone. My name is Teresa Hollingsworth. I'm the Director of Film and Traditional Arts at South Arts. South Arts is a regional nonprofit arts organization. We are headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. We do work in 9 southern states, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. That wasn't in alphabetical order, but those are the states we work with. We often get questions about if we work with artists and organizations in Virginia and in Texas, and unfortunately we do not, but I can refer folks to who their regional arts organizations are and who they should be connecting to if you are in Virginia or Texas. We do a lot of things at South Arts. Film and media arts is only one component of what we do. Right now, we have a national jazz program. We have a number of grant opportunities. We work with visual arts in dance, and I direct the Southern Circuit Tour of Independent Filmmakers. That's part of our film programming, and I've been doing this now for about 12 years. I've been with South Arts for 22 years, but about 12 of those years, I've been running our film tour. We were pre-pandemic a program where we would physically move filmmakers around the region to present their new documentary films. We are an all-doc program, providing funding for the travel and providing, I think, pretty generous artist honorariums. And because of the pandemic, we have now gone to a virtual format. We hope to go back to having filmmakers in person in communities in the months to come. But we have been doing this kind of work for a number of years. We do work with a number of Southern filmmakers, but welcome the opportunity to work with more. So that's a little bit about South Arts and the Southern Circuit Tour.
Excellent, excellent. Rahi, go ahead, you're next.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks to New Orleans Film Festival for organizing this also, and thanks to Chris for hosting. My name is Rahi Hassan. I use they, them pronouns. And just to acknowledge the land I'm on the ancestral land of Lumbee and Shakori, also known as Durham, North Carolina. I am a documentary filmmaker and impact strategist. I'm also the co-founder of Undocumented Filmmakers Collective. Our organization was founded in 2018, and currently we just celebrated our 3 years anniversary, and we have 50 plus undocumented filmmakers as members of the collective from all across the country. So we're a national organization We center the expertise of undocumented people, not only as sources of stories, but also as creators, artists, and primary audiences. Initially, the collective started as, a response to sort of the exclusionary practices in the field toward undocumented filmmakers. There are a lot of restrictions around funding and opportunities that requires citizenship and residence requirements. I'll get more into detail about some of the other reasons, like, undocumented filmmakers are contributing to the economy of this country by paying taxes, but are not recipient of any of the fundings and opportunities. Also, undocumented filmmakers have been telling stories for the beginning, regardless of visibility, regardless of opportunities, right? A lot of stories about immigration and undocumented stories are being told where, we're just used as sources of stories, but not as creators, right? So in 2018, we published an open letter sort of addressing a series on Netflix called Living Undocumented that, kind of showcased stories of various undocumented folks, but when they were asked to include undocumented folks as crew members, they rejected. So that open letter was kind of in response to those extractive practices. And then kind of, a lot of our focus initially was to build communities, right? Especially me living in the South, I didn't have a community of folks that I could very much, relate to in terms of being undocumented and stuff like that. And so after, we realized that building community is like a huge part of just filmmaking culture, right? We need each other for inspiration and to build together. And a lot of our other focus is artist development and visibility of our filmmakers. So, stop there. Thank you.
Thanks, Rahi. Nicholas, you're up.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks to New Orleans for giving us some time to just chat with their audiences and our fellow filmmakers and artists around the region. I'm glad that I'm here with Rahi and Teresa because I've really respected all of the work that they've been doing over the last several years. And I'm just glad that we can all get together and talk more about what it is to make documentaries and or try to make documentaries in the South. And so I am here representing Real South, which is a PBS documentary series, executive produced and sort of founded by PBS North Carolina, which obviously is where you and Rahi are both based right now. But we are a really unique platform that was created about 7 years ago to really, for two reasons. To one, counteract a lot of harmful and sour stories and stereotypes that were presented in the national media about the South. But we were also created to really be a platform for the kind of stories that we wanted to see told about the South. We knew that there was such stellar work and stellar tradition of storytelling in the region, and we wanted to give a platform to that because there are fewer and fewer spots or places that great documentary content can be seen, especially on public television. And we know that space is limited and not every national series is going to have 12 hours of Southern stories. Everywhere likes to be a little bit geographic diverse. So we wanted to be a place for Southern films and Southern storytelling to live, and for Southern filmmakers to be proud to showcase their work and their communities. So as I mentioned, we're moving into our 7th broadcast season, but we've expanded beyond the traditional television format. We are curating films year-round for digital platforms, short films. We're also slowly by the just by scraping by on fingernails sometimes, to work on new endeavors like commissioning our first projects, which I look forward to diving into more later, as well as, really looking into different ways that we can fund projects in an earlier stage and present them under Real South's name and our partnerships. So we're really excited about all of the future of Real South and the work that we've done now.
Great. Well, let's get started. I know the first question I want to start off with is, and I'll, give my take on it as well, is about the South. I think the question is, why the South? I know I've lived in New York. I thought about going to LA. I know coming up, doing film in any genre, whether it's narrative or documentary, it was always told you have to go to New York or out West to make something happen. And I just felt that wasn't needed, because here in the South, it's a lot cheaper to live than New York and these other places. And, I love the weather, the camaraderie here and everything. And I've actually accomplished more living in the South than I did when I was living in New York for a brief, stint of time and went out to other places. So I guess y'all's opinion, why is the South important? What makes the South special for documentary filmmaking and documentary filmmakers? And whoever wants to go first.
I'll jump in if that's okay. A couple of things. First of all, there are incredible media artists, storytellers, documentary filmmakers living in the South, and we don't want them to go anywhere. We don't want them to feel like they have to go to New York or LA or to another major metropolitan area to live and to create their work. Also, touching on a couple of items that we have touched on already today, I think it's so important that we work against extractive storytelling. And there are so many incredible stories about our region, about the diversity of the people that make the South what it is and to make this their home. And those stories shouldn't be told by other people. Those stories, people should tell their own stories. So I think we want to work to encourage Southern filmmakers, Southern storytellers to stay here and to share their work. The other thing is that it is a great place to come and live if you want to leave the, New York or LA or another one of the major metropolitan areas. One of the things that we have done with the Southern Circuit Tour over the years is, yes, we have hosted a lot of filmmakers that live outside of this region. And one of the things that they non-Southern filmmakers always share with us is that, first of all, the stereotypes have vanished that they have had about the South. Many of them have never even been here before. So that's a very positive thing. They can't believe how welcoming audiences are and screening partner communities are, that they are absolutely, Southerners are absolutely eager to learn about other people and other places and other things. So for us, it's very much a two-way street. And I think this is a great place for people to stay, to make home, and to share their stories.
I agree. Anyone else like to comment?
I could share a little bit. So, I was born in the global South in Bangladesh, and I grew up in New York City, but then I found my home in Durham. I found my home in the South, and I have not been happier. I really came into the hub of storytelling. I completed my certificate program at the Center for Doc Studies. I was working there, and I was really just in awe of really absorbing the storytelling heritage and tradition that existed in the South from like way back, right? Whether it's through folklore, whether it's through music. And also like I feel like when people talk about culture shock and stuff like that, for me, it was like a beautiful opening to this tradition of like, I don't know, a lot of like hangouts, right? And a lot of it happens in porches. Like Southern porch sitting for me is a storytelling tradition, right? If you're sitting on the porch, you're sharing stories, listening to stories. Another thing that was like a very lifestyle change for me is we make time here. You know, we're not operating from FOMO, operating from like, oh, there's a million things happening and fear of missing out. For me, my life change has been quality versus quantity. So, you know, I have built more solid friendships and relationships here because we make time for each other. We sit and listen. And I think that is very much a foundation of culture of storytelling, right? And so when you are like sort of immersed in this lifestyle culture, that just inspires you and, you know, feel like I feel like it's a storytelling environment that is being cultivated through these lifestyles. So yes, love the South.
Nicholas, you have any comments?
I would just, you know, I think echoing what Teresa has to say, I think that anytime that someone is choosing to make art or be a filmmaker or work in arts administration, the career track is not always the easiest. And I think that it's important to understand that wherever you live in this country, it's not the easiest career to or path, but there are options in the South. And I think that's what we all are here to represent and speak to, is that not only culturally is this a place that is conducive to having relationships and to having a life that I think feeds into your creative, you know, enterprise, but also it's a place where economically you can support yourself. And we are here to talk about opportunities to do that.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. I know as a filmmaker myself, even before I started with Southern Documentary Fund, just the amount of resources that are here. Certain film festivals like the Cucalores Film Festival, they have a cool grant, the Film and NC Fund. They also do residencies. You know, the work that you guys are all doing. You know, there's so much here throughout the South where you can tap into. Even now in my position at SDF, I get filmmakers from all over hitting me up, just saying, man, you guys, I love what you guys are doing. You know, there's nothing like this in my state. You know, they kind of fit outside of the 12 states we represent. They're like, man, I wish we had some of these things going on in the states we're living in. So I'm always, you know, promoting the South, and I've done screenings in New York and I couldn't get any traction. You know, like down South, we'll do a screening, we'll pack it out. New York is tough. You know, I guess because there's so much going on and it's just so, you know, the hustle and bustle and everything. But I like that as well about the South, just the audiences, they love the documentary genre, you know. And so anytime we do something down South, South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina, whatever, we usually have good turnouts. People are really engaged. And I think that's one of the things I love about the South. And I think it leads to another question of collaboration as well. And I know I've done a lot of collaborating throughout the South with organizations and filmmakers as well. Collaborate with filmmakers all the time. And I know it's like, I guess it's a Southern hospitality thing where people just want to work together and share resources and opportunities. I guess let's talk about how we can just become, I guess, keep building on that in the South. You know, the reasons why we should be collaborating as organizations and all of that to keep this thing moving forward. Anyone can start off.
Well, I just want to say kudos to the New Orleans Film Society and the work that they have done over the last several years with the South Summit, really bringing folks together in the same room when we were all able to meet once upon a time in a safe manner. And that has just been such an important part of my growth as an arts administrator, because I'm not a creator. I'm not a filmmaker. I'm very much in this work from the standpoint of arts administration. But I can't thank New Orleans Film Society enough for bringing us together, many of us together, and we do need more of that. I would like to see more of those opportunities for us to get to know one another, to learn about each other. And, you know, we all are still very much living in a virtual world. And unfortunately, we lose some of that very important collaborative work when we aren't together physically, when you're not going to get a cup of coffee with someone or having lunch with a new friend or colleague. So I hope that we're able to, revisit that again in the very near future. Another opportunity I wanted to mention is a very loose network that came together at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic with funding from NEA and the Sundance Institute, which is the Indie Media Arts South network. It's free. At the end of this, we'll provide some information about how people can get connected. We meet once a month, via Zoom. It's a place for both makers, representatives from film festivals, representatives from, academic film programs to come together and just to share resources and talk about what they're working on, and for us to really share in a virtual space. So, I think we are trying to all continue to move forward despite what's going on in the world health-wise, and creating these virtual opportunities to connect.
Cool. Anyone else like to make some comments on that? Go ahead, Nicholas.
I can just say that on an organization level for Real South, and really speaking on the public media side, our growth is really attributed to our growth in partnerships and our relationships across the region. When, PBS North Carolina and South Carolina ETV created Real South, it was a passion project, but really, it was a testament to two people's working relationships and wanting to work on something together. And now, in just phases of growth, expanding our producing partnerships and expanding our networks to just include any kind of different grants and underwriting, but also making inroads in different communities and cities and different film festivals. I think our growth is attributed to the fact that organizations are so eager to partner and so eager to grow through each other and see each other's success, because I think that is really the mentality across the South, is that one person's success lends its hand to another. I think that all of us have that mentality that when one of us succeeds, we're able to pull someone else along with us and offer that hand. And I think that's why, for Real South, that's why we've grown in the way we have. But I know that we wouldn't have done that without South Arts already work. Wouldn't do that without New Orleans Film Society's work and cooperation and partnerships, bringing us to other groups around the country and around the region. So it is very much tied to each other's, successes.
I agree. Totally agree. Rahi, you have any comments?
Yeah, just echoing everything Teresa and Nick said, spaces like New Orleans Film Festival, Indie Media Arts South, has been, especially I feel like Indie Media Arts South has been an amazing model for this hybrid world we're living in right now, right? We have to think about everything in a physical space and a virtual space, not knowing the uncertainty we're moving forward to. And I think it's important for us to kind of come with this. I almost feel like the Chris Everett approach, work with what you have and make it happen. I feel like I've learned that from you, in your work all the time. So, despite the reality that we can't meet in physical spaces, which I think is so crucial, because I see filmmaking as it takes a village. And, we need to come together we need to be in the same spaces. So this morning I was talking to a friend, and I'm working on a short film. And sometimes when I have creative blocks and stuff, I ask myself, okay, what would help me? And I feel co-working with other filmmakers that I could perhaps talk through some things. And so then I was I should just create a virtual co-working cafe and just offer it to a Zoom link and have everyone just join as a open door, whenever folks are available. So, we need to get creative with the given reality, and just and also I would just say for funders, funders that are re-granting and things like that, prioritize also this aspect of it, that like this, it's a foundation of collaboration, collaborative spaces, whether it's virtual, but when we do go back to physical space, I think in the South, there is a scarcity of physical spaces for collaboration or like co-working spaces. So I would really advocate for that, for folks to like prioritize that and see value in that.
Totally. I guess to piggyback on that, let's talk a little bit about, I guess, exhibition. Like I think I was saying earlier, just being a filmmaker, going up north and these other places, it was just tough. Even though, there are limited venues in the South, but they're not as pricey as you go into New York. Some of these places, they want $3,000 or $5,000 for like a 20-seater micro cinema. But, here, I think a lot of makers and organizations have been creative of seeking out alternative venues and things like that. I know South Arts with the Southern Circuit, you guys are doing some cool things of getting these different venues. Some would say alternative venues, whether it's like at a university, art gallery space. Those are the type of venues that I usually use as well, of doing these alternative type of ways of exhibition and screening your project. So Teresa, I would like to start off with you. Talk about that, about the different type of ways that you guys are exhibiting documentaries throughout the South.
Well, we are very fortunate that we work with a lot of different kinds of screening partners. We screen in lots of different types of physical settings when we are hosting in-person screenings. I will say that as far as the virtual community is concerned, and now that we are in it, or the Southern Circuit Tour is being presented virtually, I don't know that we will ever leave that. It will always be, it's not an either or, it's and. So we will always screen, I think, in some type of virtual setting. As far as some of the physical spaces that we present in, very non-traditional. Yes, we do work with a couple of indie movie houses that have great setups. We do work with a number of performing arts centers that have great equipment. They have great, they've got a great setup for presenting film, whether it's in a black box or if it's in their main theater space. Over the years, we have presented in churches. We have presented in museums, in libraries, in historic theaters that might have been performing arts theaters and not necessarily movie houses. We have done a lot of screenings outdoors over the years, and particularly now in the space that we're in. Last fall, we were able to present, or last year for our 2021 season, we did present 3 films outdoors, and that was a safe space. People could bring their lounge chairs and their blankets and safely distance from other folks. And we were able to actually present a couple of filmmakers in person. So that was great. And we projected onto a side of a building. So you don't necessarily have to have a fancy screen. Now, I'm not a filmmaker, and filmmakers might not be crazy about that kind of physical setting. But it was all those screenings went very well. Very receptive audiences, I will say, and very much non-traditional settings. But I think for filmmakers that we have worked with, it's been a very positive experience to say, oh, we projected on the side of a building, or we met in a church, or, we have one screening partner, they screen in a dance studio. So you use the space that you have to bring communities together. And sometimes some of those, the most rewarding screening experiences that our filmmakers have been in these very non-traditional settings.
I totally agree. As a filmmaker, and Rahi knows this about me as well, we screen everywhere. A friend of mine, he recently moved to the South. He was in New York. He has an organization called the Luminal Theater. And I kind of learned that model from him. because he screens everywhere. They screen at parks. They do it all, galleries, museums. I think one thing that really inspired me with him, and he's brought that down south as well now. He's in Columbia, South Carolina. He set up a screening right there on the block corner in Brooklyn. And they had the generator out there. They had the screen up there on the wall. He had about 40 people out there. He had a nice audience and everything, and they were really engaged. I was like, man, this is the way to do it. Because, you might not have access to the Regal Cinema, the AMCs, and, and all that stuff. And it's about bringing community together. And so churches and all of that. I think that's how I've been successful, even with my own screenings. And we still, my film's been out for about 6 years, and we still do like 2 to 4 screenings a month, and it's because of the alternative venues where we can go to churches and other places and come together and have those dialogues. Pretty much you come in where the people are, pretty much. You're going where they are. And I think that's helped me. And I've always urged filmmakers, especially here in the South, to do more of that and kind of look outside of the box of your traditional movie theaters and start looking into those other ways of exhibition. Nicholas, I want to talk to you a little bit about distribution, since you guys are pretty much doing that with broadcasting. So tell us a little bit about that, and also with the new streaming phenomenon that we're living in now, and how you guys are now streaming, through Real South, the website and all that stuff as well, and talk about just what Real South is doing in regards to this new streaming phase that we're in right now, and I guess looking towards the future of distribution as well.
Sure. I'll try to be as helpful, at least as much as I can, working mostly with Real South, but and in public media. But I can just speak broadly to an extent that, first, let me just ground this in what Real South does. As I mentioned, we have a public television broadcast series, which programs feature-length and half-hour films for public media audiences nationally on PBS. We've released those films to stations nationwide every year, every spring. And so and that's kind of your traditional format. This is a traditional rights ask and broadcast television. But for every film, we also get digital streaming rights, so that audiences, both to serve audiences who are watching content online, but also to try to expand PBS's footprint, because I think in so many conversations, so much, and even with filmmakers, they come to PBS thinking, I want a broadcast partner, but I'm going to find someone else for streaming. And that kind of model is really unsustainable for PBS. It's unsustainable for us. And we've been really fortunate in that our filmmakers understand the value in reaching our audiences and expanding that PBS footprint for us. So we're able to get, 3 months at least for every film that we have. Oftentimes we're getting up to a year or 3 years. And for the digital streaming rights, we understand that there are tons of opportunities out there. And we understand that if you're a filmmaker based in the South, there's not a lot of opportunities, a lot of exposure to those opportunities in the region, outside of maybe some film festivals, if they're high profile enough, or outside of you venturing around California or New York. And so, Real South is a streaming option. PBS is a streaming option in that sense. But we understand that those are opportunities that everyone is pursuing. The potential to reach large audiences is really promising. And so for us, we try to make that as fair and as open as possible by not requiring any exclusivity on the digital front. Now, I can't speak to what other partners or other streaming platforms are doing on the exclusivity side and what their priorities are. But for us, we've had a lot of luck and a lot of success with having non-exclusive digital streaming rights for all of our films. But we're also curating digital short films, so films that are under 20 minutes. Those are living exclusively online for us. And those are, the PBS app, the pbs.org, on Facebook Watch, on YouTube. We are a multi-platform series, and a place for Southern content wherever people are consuming that content. And we think that our films, especially in the short side, are really some of the most, just excellent storytelling, stellar filmmaking pieces of work that's in this region and around the country. And so we're thrilled that those films are also getting a life outside of a film festival, where traditionally that's usually where people were seeing. Now I'm turning on, HBO Max or Hulu and seeing short content there. But I think it's important that people understand that PBS is, and I speak for all of our series, our sibling series, our rivalries, they're also really focused on expanding their digital footprint and making sure that our series collectively are all sustainable and competing for audiences digitally, and knowing that there are people like me who aren't watching on a traditional linear cable package. We're watching exclusively online. And just today, I saw a press release that what is now DirecTV Stream, which is the cable version of AT&T. It's all changes name every 6 months. You can't keep up with it, but PBS is now part of these channels. They're rolling out through 2022. Stations all over the country are now going to be a digital channel, purely digital channel, available on Roku, available on Apple TV, wherever you're consuming, whatever device you're using. PBS is now there, and so I think it's fantastic, and overdue, but I'm happy that it's finally there. And that says that Real South content is going to be available not just on demand through looking it up on an app, but available as a television channel when people are watching online, because programmers around the country are really happy with the work that we do, and especially around the South, they're presenting our content for their audiences. I know that you had a multi-part question there, so is there anything else you want me to hit on there?
Oh no, you pretty much hit on everything that I want you to hit on. That was excellent. Okay. That was excellent. Rahi, we've talked about this, and you were just talking about this earlier about, I guess especially in Durham where we're at, but I know other areas in the South probably had the same issue with, venues, finding those venues. I guess with your organization, what are some of the things what are you guys thinking about doing in regards to finding certain spaces or getting a space? I know you've been very vocal about, folks need to have their own space as well to do these certain things. Just talk about what you guys are doing, thinking about doing, and also how can we address these issues of finding these type of venues and affordable venues as well?
Yeah, I feel like this is such a big question, Chris. Like we could have a whole panel about this, and I have so much to say about distribution and venues and things like that. I always approach distribution from an impact perspective. That like when I learned about like impact producing, is that distribution is you're trying to reach as many audiences as you can. And in impact, you're trying to reach the most amount of, you're trying to reach the right audience, right? It's not about as many audience, but the right audience, but also to rephrase it, as many of the passionate audiences as possible, right, for your film. So I think where you screen your film is informed by who your audience is, right? So me being based in the South, and as we're trying to outreach more in the South for Undocumented Filmmakers Collective, we want to feel like we have a home here, and that a physical home here. And I think it's as much as I advocate are trying to dismantle this, this pathway of production filmmaking is going toward of having fancy cameras, and it's insanely expensive to be able to keep up with the optics and the kind of films that Netflix would accept or whatever, those requirements. As much as I would advocate for just pick up your smartphone and just, it's about the story. But the reality is we are having to making a film cost a lot of money. And so as much as I would love to just showcase my film in have a community screening as my primary, distribution strategy. But, maybe there are films that needs to be screened at a theater. And so I guess I would say that I personally would advocate for the South to focus on having more venues that regionally, I think have a regional home is so important for filmmakers, that, okay, when I made a film, I know that I have a home here, my film is going to be screened here, right? And so to make that happen, that's again a big topic for me because, as I'm trying to be anti-capitalist, despite operating under capitalism, I think there are many approaches we can take. We can do a lot of, so I love that you tied this conversation right after collaboration, because it's possible for different organizations to collaborate and, throw in money and have from the concept of real estate co-op or something. There are many different models that exist in movement work and other alternative methods that we can translate into filmmaking and, invest. Also thinking about folks who are putting in money, think about invest as an impact investment and not just counting money, right? That, okay, I'm throwing in this much money and then I need to get this much return. What impact are you getting in return? For me, I feel like a lot of investment needs to be thought about as what's the cultural asset are we building in the South, right? So if that's kind of the mentality we can more shift toward, I think we can have more, physical spaces and have a thriving collaborative environment in terms of distribution or for co-working and things like that.
Cool. I guess to piggyback off of that, funding is real big. When you're a documentary filmmaker, I think that's the number one thing. Is just like Rahi was saying, it's expensive making this type of work and funding opportunities. Let's talk about that. I'm gonna start off with you, Teresa. What are some of the funding opportunities that you guys have, not only to possibly make films, but also distribute them and exhibit them as well?
Well, at South Arts, we do have a number of funding opportunities. Unfortunately, none of them are for filmmakers to directly impact them as far as while they're creating their work. All of the funding opportunities that we do have available are for presentation of film. I'm sure, I know stories of filmmakers where they've been invited, oh, come, show your new short or share your new documentary. But basically you have to, pay for being there and doing that work. You might not be paying for the physical space, but you're paying your travel, you're providing your time, you are sharing the content of your art to an audience for free. And, I don't believe any artist should have to work for free. Many are very gracious to do so, but I don't think that is the environment that we necessarily want to support. We want to support an environment where filmmakers and other artists are seen as professionals. They are creators and they should be compensated for that work. So I did want to mention a couple of funding opportunities. They're currently available for filmmakers to share with organizations or representatives from organizations who might be interested in, presenting their film. One is we have something called an express grant. It's on a rolling deadline. I checked, there are still funds available for this fiscal year. South Arts, our financial year ends on June 30th, 2022. These funds are for organizations in communities that are, their population is 50,000 people or less. A lot of times somebody wants to take their film home, and show to maybe the university community where you went to school, maybe the hometown where you grew up, maybe the town where, your grandmother lives. An organization would need to apply for this funding. These grants are up to $2,000. They can be used for the artist honorarium or the artist travel, not for marketing, not for equipment, but these funds would end up going directly to the filmmaker. We have another opportunity called presentation grants. We have already announced this funding for FY22. We will be announcing the deadlines and the guidelines for FY23. And that fiscal year is July 1, 22 through June 30th, 2023. And we will be announcing those opportunities soon. Those funds are for up to $5,000. And that might be if a filmmaker might be interested in doing perhaps a 2 or 3 day residency in a community. We really encourage people to think about educational engagement opportunities with all of our funding options. So that's something that we strongly encourage. So these presentations can be live. They can also be virtual. So we really encourage filmmakers to come to South Arts, especially when an organization says, we'd love to present your work, but we don't have any money. If you're located in the South, perhaps we can be of assistance.
Excellent, excellent. I'm definitely going to reach out to you about a couple of those grants for my own projects. So I'll definitely be in touch with you about that. Nicholas, I want to go with you next. I know you were mentioning earlier that Real South is starting to commission some films. Tell us a little bit more about that, because to me, I think that's a part of funding as well. You're funding work, giving filmmakers an opportunity as well to work with you guys. So tell us a little bit more about that Real South is doing now.
Well, I guess I whisper the word commission because everything we do is still very much grant-based, or if we get a grant, for instance, we've been fortunate that the NEA has really seen value in our work, and a lot of our applications have been approved for funding. And so when we propose new grants, new grant-funded programs like Filmmaker and creative content creating programs like a virtual sort of event or conference, we've been lucky that those have been funded. And so part of what we're trying to do, even through those programs, is to build in different ways that filmmakers or creatives can make content. And so for a program like Real Digital, which is a sort of a virtual or hybrid conference, it's been all versions of that, between an in-person event to virtual to hybrid, moving forward this fall. There's different components to all of our grants where we're trying to give, a little bit of money to a content maker to create something, or whether it's even a larger project. We talked about partnerships earlier, but we recently published a short film documentary series called Hindsight, made with Firelight Media and the Center for Asian American Media, CAM. And through that, we were able to, in partnership, and because of this partnership with those organizations and the funding that they also brought into the project, we were able to commission 6 filmmakers from the South to create shorts that were timely and spoke to everything that was happening in 2020 and released within 12 months. So, we're trying to come up with new ways of funding projects, whether that be not an exclusive or primary component to a grant, but almost as a side hustle to a grant, attending a conference and then walking away with $600 to make a digital project, be it something for social, be it, whatever you decided to do, or if it was something that we were able to do in partnership with other arts organizations that were also had funding that they wanted to spend on short content in the South. And that, whether that be a short documentary series or if you're working on other works as well. So we're not in the business yet of, taking unsolicited pitches and funding feature films at $100,000. We're not ITVS, but we can certainly advise filmmakers in the South, and we try to on those different cycles. We try to support those funding applications. And as we come up with our own grants, for instance, for another Hindsight short series, if projects like that are approved and grants are approved, then there's opportunities to come. So for us, it's all about, in funding and our whole way of operating is all thinking long-term. It's slow, long-term growth, because 5 years ago, we were paying very, very humble licensing fees and only able to present projects in a very small way. And now we are finally at a point where we commissioned something in partnership. And so for us, what does that look like in the next 5 years? I don't know, but I think that I think that a filmmaker who's based in the South understands that the work we're doing is about investment in our communities and investment in our industry and investment in our creative economy. And I think that we have the time, but because we have to, to be patient, to make inroads slowly, to build partnerships. And then when opportunity is finally presented, able to execute. And I think that's kind of where we're at right now. When funding comes to us, we're able to rely on partnerships that we've built over years of work and really come up with really exciting content and films and work. But that to say, you can reach us at realsouth.org. It's REEL, and my email is nick@realsouth.org. I'm at various film festivals, ideally, around the South, possibly even New Orleans this year, TBD. But we're around the South. We're also represented by public television stations around the South. So if you're meeting someone from your local PBS station, chances are they can get in contact with us too.
Cool. Excellent. Rahi, I know, we've talked about, with your organization, I know you want to expand more, be more, within the South. Talk about the Undocumented Filmmakers Collective and what you guys can bring, to filmmakers that say, hey, I'm an undocumented filmmaker in the South. I want help with my film. How can you guys help?
Yeah, so, in the funding topic also, we're not a funding or re-granting organization yet. And our focus is primarily to develop artist development for undocumented artists from a holistic approach, wellness and mental health, community, resource sharing, visibility, right? All of that. So we're a fairly new organization. So, none of us come from entrepreneurial background or anything. So we're learning as we go. But some of the main, I would say, offerings from our collective is once you become a member, you'll have to fill out an application, and then you'll go through this onboarding process. And our internal community operates on Slack. So that's where a lot of the resource sharing around opportunities, jobs, referral happens. We are currently in the process of developing our website. As I was actually in this panel, I saw some Slack notifications. They were actually accepting content for our website. Now we've been in conversation with the developer. And our one of our goals is to create a filmmaker database, a directory similar to Brown Girls Doc Mafias that we're really inspired by, which will be, kind of provide visibility of the work of the folks who are member of our collective, but also folks who would like to hire and are looking for, expertise from undocumented creatives. We have been offering, so we have, internally in our organization, we have various subcommittees. So a couple of them are artist development and PR and visibility. So the directory is part of a lot of the visibility work for the organization, but also for individual members. In the artist development, we have been offering these master classes. So even though we're not able to formally re-grant, we did get a funding from Sundance for COVID relief that we had distributed to all our members as a small micro grant for COVID relief. But we have been offering these master classes on how to fill out your fellowship application, how to fill out your funding, application. And then also we put together sort of a master class from that consisted of filmmakers from the professionals from the industry that talked about different strategies for funding outside of, the traditional funding opportunities that are out there. And then the current list of, if you go to so we don't have a website, but we have a link tree, and we are on all social media platforms. Our social media handle is UndocuFC, and our link tree is Filmmakers. And there you will see all the upcoming master classes that are coming up. The one that's coming up is on distribution. We recently had one on producing. So yeah, to again address your question, Chris, when folks, join our collective, there are many different initiatives that are kind of in the process ongoing, from development. And then also we are kind of waiting for some funding. We're hoping for, or have been dreaming of, a summit for our collective where we all come together in one space. We're 50 plus members. We have not been in one space. We've all been operating virtually for the last 3 years. And we're hoping to have an internal film festival. The reason we want it to be internal for now, because we've always thought that as much as we want to be representative of our community, we're not a monolith, right? So it's important for us to hear our stories and learn about each other's work. So that's kind of what we'll do in this festival, which will be a pilot film festival for a festival that will be open to the public in the future. There's also a dream of a production company on the horizon. So there are lots in the making, and it's, we're a community that's family. So when you're a member, you're part of the family.
Cool, great stuff, great stuff. I know we definitely, want to collaborate and partner with you guys as well. And, we'll be talking about that definitely in the near future. I know I wanted to mention about Southern Documentary Fund, some of the things that we offer as well. We offer grants, production grants, research and development grants, things like that. We also offer mentorship as well. I think that's one of the things that is key, mentorship. I had a mentor, and I still do have mentors that have been there and done it and can give me a different perspective. They help me just with my career overall. And so I'm glad that Southern Documentary Fund actually offers that with high quality documentary professionals, whether it's through distribution, filmmakers that have been producing and directing their own films, editors, the whole nine. And so we've been doing that at SDF for a little while now. We're just going to continue to do that, because being in the South, you might not have access to people that might be in New York or LA or Chicago. And this virtual landscape has actually made it a little bit easier to get mentors, because you can do it kind of all through Zoom now. And I think that's one of the benefits of I guess, COVID. It kind of forced us to kind of think outside the box. And now we can actually connect, mentors with our mentees, in a more virtual, space where, we have to bring everybody in. That just costs a lot of money. So now, just kind of, makes it a little bit easier, doing it in the whole virtual landscape. And so, we also offer fiscal sponsorship as well. So if you're a filmmaker looking for funds, or if you got donors, because I know even with my own films, I have private donors that say, hey, Chris, I want to give you 10, 20,000 for your project, but I need a write-off. And so do you have a fiscal sponsor? And, so that's where a fiscal sponsor can come in. And we offer that as well for makers, and also for organizations as well. Say your organization, you want to do a screening series in your city or town, and you want to get some funding, and you got some donors that as well that want to contribute to your screening series, we can also offer fiscal sponsorship for that as well. So, we're covering documentary across the whole spectrum, whether it's podcasts, feature films, experimental films, docuseries, we try to cover it all, because all of it, to me, is what makes this whole thing work in the documentary world. I guess, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I really enjoyed the conversation. I definitely want to continue to have these conversations with all you. I know, Nicholas, we've talked about, even with my own films, of doing some things with Real South, as they get completed. Rahi, I definitely want to do some things with you. And also Teresa, we've talked about some things as well. So we'll definitely keep this conversation going. I guess to close it out, I'll start it off. If anyone wants to reach out to the Southern Documentary Fund, about any programs we have going on, just hit me up directly, chris@southerndocumentaryfund.org, chris@southerndocumentaryfund.org, or you can just hit us up on our website at southerndocumentaryfund.org. And, you know, just hit us up anytime. I'm always available to talk to filmmakers about anything. I just love talking about documentaries. So just hit me up. Teresa, you can go ahead and start, and everyone else can give you information and how folks can contact you. You know, they heard something today they're interested in. Like Teresa, I'm gonna hit you up about those grants as well. So give you information in your website also.
Okay. Want to mention not only South Arts, which is at southarts.org, southarts.org. You can get information there about the grant opportunities that I mentioned today. You can also contact me or my colleague, Jordan Young, who is the manager for communications, film, and media at South Arts. He co-produces with me the Southern Circuit tour. Our social media for Southern Circuit, we have an Instagram account, so please follow us at Southern Circuit. Also want to mention we have a newsletter at South Arts, which you can find more information about that under the contact tab. And we put out a newsletter only when there's something to share. We don't want something new to share. We don't want to, you know, clog up everybody's email accounts, but that's the place to always get the latest information about funding opportunities or the Southern Circuit tour. And lastly, I want to mention Indie Media Arts South. I had referred to it earlier today. You want to check out our website at imasouth.org. We would love for you to be a part of those discussions. It's open to anyone. You don't even have to live in the South. We still want you to be a part of Indie Media Arts South. So please check out the website and come and join us. And again, thank you today, Chris, for being a part of this great conversation. Big thanks to my colleagues and to the Southern Doc Fund and the New Orleans Film Festival.
Who's next?
I can share. So I shared the social media handle already. It's the same across all the platforms, or on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Undocumented. FC. And I think the best place to get all the information for our organization is Linktree. So linktr.ee/UndocuFilmmakers. Please sign up for our external newsletter that goes out every month if you're interested in knowing what we're up to, any updates about members, organizational updates. You can also donate to support us financially on that page. And if you'd like to reach me directly, my email is Rahi, R-A-H-I, @undocufilmmakers.org. Yeah, I think that's all.
Thanks, Chris. I think a lot of our information will be on the website that this is all going to live on. But you know, for Real South, if you're trying to get connected with me, you can just look at our website, realsouth.org. You can also very likely talk to, as I mentioned before, your PBS station, whether if you're connecting. And I recommend filmmakers try to connect to their PBS station, their local stations, because there's opportunities there. They're looking for ways to connect to their independent communities. And I think as long as everyone's, you know, trying to explore and see what partnerships are available, I think there's only good that can come from reaching out to them and just trying to have a conversation, even if the sort of foundation isn't set in stone yet. But Real South is great to connect with your station as well. You can find us at festivals, you can find us online, and we have an annual we're still operating on an annual open call every summer. But we're also curating short films year round. So the best way to stay on top of anything new with Real South, and as Teresa said, only new things, our newsletter, which we release about once a month, but usually just promoting new films or new grant opportunities like South Arts or SDF or other public media institutions. And hopefully now that I'm connected with Rahi more, anything that Undocumented Collective is doing too. So thanks.
Could I add one more thing, Chris?
Yes, go ahead.
So our current series of masterclasses are open to everyone. So if you go to our link tree, you will see a distribution masterclass that's coming up. So you can, I think it's either sliding scale or a pretty like affordable. Please register for masterclasses if you'd like. And anyone that would like to be a member, there is also a form to become a member on our link tree.
Cool. I guess again, my name is Christopher Everett. I'm the program manager at Southern Documentary Fund. And I want to thank everyone for checking out this panel today, and thank all you guys for participating and giving great insight. We definitely have to do it again. But again, I want to thank the New Orleans Film Festival for giving us a platform to do this panel during their film festival. And again, my name is Christopher Everett with the Southern Documentary Fund, and this was the Southern Resources for Documentary Filmmakers panel at the New Orleans Film Festival. Till next time, peace.